Hello and welcome to the Musical Instrument Investigator. Today we're on the website of French auction portal Cher, and we're going to have a look at an auction by an auction house called Ger Gascogne, which is a new auction house to me, but it seems like they have an auction of musical instruments and sound equipment coming up, and they have about 109 lots in this that we're going to look through. So before we get started, I'd just like to say, if you haven't done already, please consider subscribing because it really helps the channel. Commenting really helps as well. If you've got any questions, please fire away, and any likes and all of that kind of stuff, it all really helps and would be much appreciated. Anyway, moving on from that, so yes, we have this auction here, Ger Gascogne, based in France. They have an auction of musical instruments, 109 lots. Looks like this auction is finishing on February the 24th. It's the 21st today, so a few days left to go. 21% is the buyer's premium, so what you pay on top of the hammer price. As always, check all the terms and conditions of the individual auction houses to make sure that you know all of the fees that are coming along if you were to bid on something in the auction. Obviously, if you're outside of France, if you're somewhere else in Europe or somewhere else in the world, then you might have additional shipping fees, or there might be restrictions, CITES, restrictions on certain materials, etc, etc. But anyway, that's probably enough from me. I've said enough, so let's have a quick whiz through. As always, this is just a raw one take, or mostly one take video, just going through, seeing if there's anything interesting. We're going to try and speed through this one fairly quickly and not go too crazy. And yeah, if you have any questions, let me know. I'll put a link to the auction catalogue in the description as always. And yeah, let's crack on. So we have a Bohm System Ebony clarinet there, marked René Duval. I don't want to click on everything because that might be a bit extreme. They've got an ebony clarinet, Bohm System, B flat there, Masspacher, late 19th century. You can kind of see that. Clarinet in D here. Hallery Soudre, Paris. Then we've got a B flat clarinet, Ebony Bohm System by Selmer. Another Bohm System clarinet, B flat Buffet Crampon. Piccolo body with 6 nickel plated keys from JTL. Anonymous piccolo in ebony with 4 nickel plated keys, 40 to 50. It's fairly interesting looking piccolo there. Boxwood flute with 5 brass keys, mounted on a shoe, ivory rings there, Martin, marked on all bodies. Looks like it needs some TLC, but interesting. 150 to 200 euros. A lot of 2 flutes, Lecomte flute in Grenadier there, and a Bias flute, 80 to 100. Then we've got harmonica, Vermona Bandmaster in case. A lot of 2 harmonicas, Hohner 64 and a Hohner Echo. There's an alto sax horn here from Cousineau, the big instrument dealers. Brass horn from Cousineau there. Clarion, Yvette and Schaefer, traces of oxidization. I think we can agree with that one. Anonymous brass horn, old repairs. Is there no information there. Millereau alto saxophone with 3 valves. Small brass cool horn. Ooh, and a sousaphone, excellent. Anonymous sousaphone here. These are interesting things, 200 to 300 euros there. Selmer soprano saxophone there, silver finish, 800 to 1,000. Let's have a look at a few more pictures while we're here. See what kind of quality of pictures we have. Well, it seems fairly detailed so far. If you're into soprano saxophones, that might be of interest to you. An accordion, Francois de Denis accordion, missing bellows. Okay, 50 to 60 euros there. Yamaha Clavinova keyboard there. Casio MA100 and Casio Privia PX1110. A Farfisa G7 synth. Technics SXKN 920 synth. Let's have a look at this one. Let's have a look at this Korg M500 synth, Japan in the 70s. Nice, 50 to 60 euros. This is pretty cool. This is quite an interesting one. I bet this is probably worth a fair bit more than that estimate. Yeah, that's an interesting synth, that one. As is this, the Solina string ensemble synth, made in Holland 1970s, does not turn on. Okay, well, that estimate is probably about right then, but once again, that's an interesting looking one. Set of percussion and maracas. Let's have a quick look at that. Yep. 2 pairs of small standing congas. Canto mandolin banjo from the 1950s. Mandolin banjo. Jim Harley electric guitar. I don't think there's anything too much to say about that. Ovation 1612 electroacoustic guitar, balladeer model. Looks like it's been pretty well used. Fender Stratocaster electric guitar, made in the USA, 1989. 800 to 1000. These lace sensor pickups there. It's quite a nice looking Strat, that one. Court Performer Series headless guitar. Ovation Breadwinner. These are interesting looking guitars. 500 to 600 euros. It's not bad. 1973 to 75. Ozark Gypsy Jazz guitar there. Yamaha G230 classical. Another Fender Stratocaster. 1976. 800 to 1000 euros. Wow, that's got that Roland series installed in. Yeah, GK2 synth. Electronics not checked. Let's have a look at a few more pictures. That's had a bit of a rough life. I bet that was a gigging guitar for someone. It's got that big 70s kind of headstock there. Mirage folk guitar, not really much to say here. German guitar made around 1900, 40 to 50, with the kind of figure of 8 peg box there. This is pretty standard lower tier kind of guitar from that time. 40 to 50 euros is kind of okay though. Famous acoustic guitar, not much to say on that one either. Jim Harley, this is a low end modern one. Le Patrie electroacoustic guitar, not really interesting there. Same with this one, being ruthless now. Another Court Performer Series headless electric guitar. Fender solid body electric guitar, USA 1979, 4 to 500, still with the bigger headstock there. Can read all the information at your own leisure there. A Jerome acoustic guitar. Once again, I think this is pretty low level kind of stuff. I think you see quite a few of those brands around. Onto the second page, Suzuki classical guitar. We don't need to look at that either. This Henry Miller one. This is a slightly bit more interesting. Hagstrom 3 electric guitar, made in Sweden, 1960s, 150 to 200 euros. These are always quite quirky, these guitars. Quite like them. And I'm not sure what this is. Famous acoustic guitar. This looks pretty horrible, to be fair. 50 to 60, optimistic. Country electric guitar. It's just another kind of knockoff Strat type guitar. Looks a little bit horrible. Samick acoustic, we don't really need to look at that. This is a bit more interesting. Miguel Martin's Model 801 Gypsy Jazz guitar, 100 to 150. Could be an interesting guitar, that one, in playing condition. Got a Vox AC30 guitar amp there, 70s, 80s, 200 to 300. Charlie Dardy Series 80 watt guitar amp, 2 to 300. Drive CD 300 RT guitar amp made in Korea, 50 to 60. Classic Roland Jazz Chorus here, made in Japan, 85 to 90, 100 to 150. Always pretty good amps, the Jazz Choruses. Roland Microcube RX, Vox Escort 30, Doobie GK15 guitar amp, Marshall Valvestat 80V, Fender Frontman 15G amp, mandolin with 13 alternating ribs. Looks like a pretty low level mandolin there. Stridente Napoli mandolin, once again not particularly interesting. Some violins. 19th century violin labelled Amati, 100 to 200, to 100 to 120 euros is the estimate. Well, it's slightly more interesting than your average that you see, but it needs quite a bit of work there. Moving on. French violin from the early 19th century. Neck headstock change, soundboard and soundboard cracks. 100 to 120 euros. Fairly kind of interesting back. The bow might be hard to say. I don't think that's an unreasonable estimate, to be honest. Slightly interesting F-hole shape and position, but I think that's okay. Mircore violin, my favourite, from the early 20th century, 100 to 150 euros. Probably seems a fair estimate, needs a bit of work. Another Mircore violin. This one a bit of a lower level than the previous one, 40 to 50. Few bows in there, that might be okay. 3 ordinary bows, so don't expect too much. Mircore violin, Bergonzi label, with some damage, 30 to 40 euros. That seems highly optimistic. 5 to 10 I think would be better. Half size German violin, Strad label, just very bottom tier trade instrument there. 30 to 40 once again, probably fairly optimistic, but you never know. Another Mircore violin that's had a bit of a chunk out of it, 50 to 60. Seems a little bit optimistic. That bow looks fairly interesting. Interesting head. Yeah, gooseneck head. It's kind of curious. Could be maybe a viola bow or something, but hard to say. Not enough pictures, but interesting. A recent violin brand, OM Monarch. Yeah, it's a new Chinese violin, 30 to 50. German violin from the 20th century, Steiner label. This is your classic trade instrument, 100 to 150. I think that is a bit optimistic, needs some work. Mircore violin, half size, Guarnerius, 70 to 80. Another Mircore violin, 50 to 80. Better than some of the other stuff that we've seen. Label G Fournier. And a 3/4 Mircore violin in many different pieces, 20 to 30. Even then, I think that's, once again, this is a 5 to 10 instrument, I think. Slightly odd scroll going on there, so a bit bizarre. Famous Vosges half-size violin, just really low tier French trade violin there. Another Mircore violin. 80 to 100, 20th century kind of thing. Seems probably about right. Violin Maspaka, 70 to 80. Pretty low kind of tier instrument, I would say. And a bow, not too exciting either, 70 to 80. Another Mirecourt violin marked Marquis de l'Air d'Oiseau, 100 to 150. Needs a lot of restoration. It's probably not the most outrageous estimate, but needs a bit of work. And Mirecourt Mancy violin, 50 to 60. Pretty standard stuff there. A Mirecourt violin, Guarnerius label, 100 to 150. Needs a bit of work as well. Bow, pretty standard. And a German violin, mid-19th century, a Marti label, 100 to 150. That's standard 19th century type thing. Another modern violin, I think it's a Chinese. And a Mirecourt violin with the top loose, and another kind of part of an instrument there, not many pictures. A whole load of bows, just random ones. I don't think there's anything too particularly great there. A sarangi and bow, India, 20th century, 20 to 30 euros there. That's pretty cool. There's a bit of decorative art. And a small kora there, 20 to 30. It's at least a bit more interesting. A cordophone from Africa, 20 to 30. That's pretty cool. And another kora here, 20 to 30. And a cutiphone phonograph with folding horn, 100 to 150. It's a curious one. Then Berkeley speakers there, Dynacord speakers, Vermona speakers. That's interesting. On to the last page. On to more kind of pro audio speakers and mixers, which is a little bit out of our kind of realm. So there you have it. That is the Ger Gascogne auction. Not the most exciting auction around, but some interesting things. A few interesting woodwind and brass items. A few kind of interesting guitars. Some of the Fender Strats. Maybe even the odd violin that's interesting. But yeah, I'll put a link in the description as always. Check it out and see what you think. And I'll catch you next time. Ciao. Many thanks for tuning in to the Musical Instrument Investigator. I hope that you enjoyed the video. If you did, then please like, subscribe and turn on notifications, and watch out for the next video coming soon.